will stand and fight with me? Has courage deserted the noble houses of Westeros?
Sir Duncan the Tall seems like the least important person in the entire world of Westeros. He's not a king. He's not an advisor to a king. He's not a dragon rider. He's not a genius strategist. He's just a really tall guy from the slums of King's Landing who became a knight. And yet, I think he's the most relatable character in this entire universe. Let me explain why. Here's the thing about Sir Duncan the Tall. He comes from absolutely nothing. I'm not talking about being born into a poor noble house. I'm talking about being an orphan in Flea Bottom, the slum of King's Landing. He didn't know his parents. He ran around with street urchins, selling meat of dubious origin to pot shops. He was a nobody in a world full of somebodies, and if you're watching this, you probably know what that feels like. Granted, you didn't grow up in a medieval slum, but you probably grew up without privilege. You probably didn't have connections or family money or a famous name. You probably had to figure things out on your own. That's Dunk. That's his starting point. If you're enjoying this analysis, subscribing would mean the world to me. I'm working toward 1,000 subscribers and everyone matters. But here's where it gets interesting. At age 5, a hedge knight named Sir Arlan of Pennytree found him chasing a pig through the streets, and Arlan took him on as a squire. This is important because Dunk didn't earn this opportunity. He didn't apply for it. He didn't network his way into it. A random knight just decided to take a chance on a street urchin, and that changed everything. Now, you might think that's the end of the story. Poor boy gets lucky, becomes a knight, lives happily ever after. But it's not, because Dunk spends the entire time doubting himself. He calls himself Dunk the Lunk. He thinks he's thick as a castle wall. He refers to himself as slow as an aurochs. He's not being modest. He actually believes this about himself. Think about that for a second. Dunk is incredibly strong. He's skilled with a sword, he's brave, he's honorable, but he genuinely thinks he's stupid. He genuinely thinks he's not good enough. And I think that's the most relatable thing about him, because I think most of us feel the same way. We look at our accomplishments and we think, well, anyone could have done that. We look at our skills and we think, yeah, but I'm not as good as that person. We doubt ourselves constantly, even when we have no reason to. Dunk takes this self-doubt and he does something with it. He doesn't let it paralyze him. He doesn't use it as an excuse. He just accepts it as part of who he is and keeps moving forward anyway. That's the real strength. Now let me tell you one of my favorite moments in Dunk's story. After Sir Arlan dies, Dunk goes to a tournament at Ashford Meadow. He's broke, he's grieving, he's alone, and he needs to register for the tournament, but there's a problem. You need to be a knight to compete. And Dunk isn't sure if he's actually a knight. He claims that Arlan knighted him before he died, but the text suggests this might not be completely true. He's lying, or at least he's not telling the whole truth. But here's what I love about this moment. Dunk isn't lying because he's a con artist. He's lying because he's trying to belong in a world that has no place for him. He's trying to claim a status he's not sure he deserves. And I think that's something we can all relate to. How many times have you been in a situation where you weren't sure you belonged, but you pretended you did anyway? How many times have you claimed a qualification you weren't 100% sure you had, just to get your foot in the door? Dunk does this, and then something remarkable happens. A prince vouches for him. Prince Baelor remembers fighting Sir Arlan years before, and he says, "Yes, I believe this guy." And just like that, Dunk is allowed to compete. He's been given permission to be a knight, but here's the thing. Dunk doesn't use this permission to become arrogant. He doesn't think, great, I'm a knight now, I can do whatever I want. Instead, he immediately uses his new status to protect someone else. A puppeteer named Tansel is being attacked by Prince Arion, and Dunk steps in. He attacks a prince. He gets arrested. He's facing trial by combat against one of the most powerful families in the kingdom. And why does he do this? Because he remembered his vows. He remembered that a knight is supposed to protect the weak and defend the innocent. Not because it benefits him, not because it makes him look good, but because it's the right thing to do. This is where Dunk's character really shows its depth. He's not a hero because he's special. He's a hero because he's committed to something bigger than himself. He's committed to the idea of what a knight should be, even though he's not sure he is one. Now let's talk about what happens after this. Dunk wins his trial. He defeats Prince Arion. But Prince Baelor is mortally wounded in the fighting. And Dunk feels guilty. Extremely guilty. He knows that his actions led to Baelor's death, even though Baelor was fighting on his side. This is important. Dunk doesn't make excuses. He doesn't say, well, it was Aerian's fault, or it was Baelor's choice. He accepts responsibility for the consequences of his actions, and he carries that guilt with him. That guilt shapes his future choices. After the tournament, Maekar Targaryen offers Dunk a place at Summerhall. He's offering Dunk comfort. He's offering him safety. He's offering him a position where he could live in a castle and be taken care of. But Dunk refuses. He says he wants to stay a hedge knight because he thinks it will teach Egg, the young prince who's now his squire, humility. This is what separates Dunk from almost every other character in Westeros. Everyone else is climbing the ladder. Everyone else is trying to accumulate power and wealth and status. Dunk is the only one who's trying to become a better person. He's the only one who's willing to sacrifice comfort for principle. And here's what gets me. Despite thinking he's stupid and slow and not good enough, he keeps showing up and doing the right thing anyway. That's not special. That's just commitment. That's deeply, profoundly relatable. Because that's what most of us are trying to do. We're not trying to be kings or conquerors. We're trying to be good people. We're trying to do the right thing even when it's hard. We're trying to be loyal to people we care about. We're trying to live with integrity. And Dunk shows us that greatness doesn't require being born great. It doesn't require magic or genius or special talent. It just requires commitment and showing up day after day. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Despite all of this, despite his self-doubt, despite his humble origins, despite his refusal of comfort, Dunk becomes legendary. He becomes a member of the Kingsguard. He becomes Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. He becomes a figure of legend that people tell stories about centuries later. But he doesn't become legendary because he was destined for greatness. He becomes legendary because he did the right thing over and over again, even when it cost him something. This is the deepest part of Dunk's character, I think. He shows us that greatness isn't something you're born with. It's something you build day after day through small choices and small acts of courage. It's something you earn by being committed to your principles, even when nobody's watching, even when it doesn't benefit you. And that's why we relate to him. That's why he resonates with us more than any other character in this universe. Because we all want to be like Dunk. We want to be the kind of person who does the right thing, who's loyal to people we care about, who stands up for the weak. And Dunk proves it's possible. An orphan from the slums became a legend. Self-doubt didn't stop him. Coming from nothing didn't define him. Commitment did. That's why Sir Duncan is the most relatable character in Westeros. Not because he's ordinary, but because he's ordinary and he becomes extraordinary through commitment and principle. And that's something we can all do.